The sun hung lazily above the skyline of Manhattan, casting long reflections across glossy buildings and polished car hoods. The city buzzed, as always, honking taxis, hurried footsteps, the ever-present hum of ambition. But in one quiet pocket of downtown, everything slowed for a moment. Harper Lane didn't notice the Bentley when she stepped off the curb. Her thoughts were scattered as usual, running late to her part-time gig at the flower shop, debating whether she'd remembered to unplug her curling iron, and wondering why her favorite bra was always the one that needed adjusting at the worst times. With a huff, she stopped beside the sleek black car, leaned in slightly, and used the dark-tinted window as a makeshift mirror. Her fingers quickly slipped under the neckline of her dress, shifting the strap back into place with practiced ease. She didn't think twice. New Yorkers didn't. The street was her mirror, her runway, her therapist. Inside the Bentley, Grayson Wolfe watched. He hadn't meant to. He'd been reviewing a file on his tablet, half listening to his driver, Cole, mumble something about traffic on Park Avenue. But something had made him look up. Some instinct, a flicker of motion. And there she was, a woman in a navy sundress, mid-20s, caramel blonde hair pulled into a loose bun, curves that spoke of confidence, not calculation. She wasn't posing. She wasn't playing a part. She was just being. For a man like Grayson, whose life was orchestrated down to the second, whose relationships were curated for business optics and never for feeling, it was disarming, uncomfortable, and completely hypnotic. Cole cleared his throat. "Should I move forward, Mr. Wolfe?" Grayson didn't answer right away. The woman had finished adjusting and was now squinting at her reflection, sticking out her tongue slightly in self-examination. Then she smiled to herself, crooked, unbothered, beautiful. Grayson blinked. "No. Stay." Harper finally noticed the shadow behind the glass. Her eyes widened just a touch. She leaned in, trying to see inside the car, uncertain. Was someone watching her? She stepped back instinctively. "Oh my God," she whispered to herself, realizing she'd just been groping her own chest in front of what was clearly someone's very expensive vehicle, likely owned by someone very not amused. "Great," she muttered. "Just sexually harassed a Bentley." Then, with a breath of mortification and a quick flip of her hair, she turned on her heel and walked away. Inside the car, Grayson watched her go. "Follow her," he said. Cole paused. "Sir?" Grayson straightened his cuffs. She dropped something. She hadn't. But Cole didn't argue. Harper turned the corner, the sounds of the city returning to full volume in her ears. She tried to shake the strange feeling in her chest, the odd electricity in the air. Something about that moment had rattled her, though she couldn't explain why. She didn't know who he was. And Grayson Wolfe had never been the type to chase anyone. Until now. Harper's day didn't improve. She arrived at the flower shop 5 minutes late, only to find the owner, Mrs. Greeley, scowling over a spreadsheet and grumbling about inventory numbers not matching. By noon, she'd dropped a tray of lavender pots, earned a thorn scratch down her wrist, and stepped in a puddle of water that soaked through her sneaker. Her usual charm and wit were dimmed by frustration and the lingering weirdness of that Bentley moment. She still wasn't sure if she'd imagined the silhouette watching her, or if she was now infamous on some reclusive millionaire's dashboard cam. "Snap out of it," she told herself, brushing leaves off her apron as she clocked out. "You're not the kind of girl who gets flustered by tinted windows." But when she pushed through the shop's glass door into the afternoon light, she froze. The Bentley was back, parked across the street, angled just enough to be watching. Harper's heart jumped. It wasn't a coincidence. She glanced around. No cameras, no obvious signs of a prank. This was real. That sleek, intimidating car was waiting. Nope. She turned the opposite way and made a beeline for the corner cafe. A crowded place would give her cover. If this was some kind of weird stalking situation, she was not about to be lured into a mystery movie plot. She needed caffeine and space to think. She pushed through the cafe doors, headed for the counter, and slammed into someone solid. Coffee flew. So did her pride. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she gasped, grabbing napkins as hot liquid soaked through someone's expensive-looking button-down shirt. A deep voice, cool, calm, vaguely amused, answered, "It's all right." She looked up and froze. It was him, the man from the Bentley. Tall, sharply dressed in a dark suit and open white collar, his presence made the busy cafe feel suddenly small. His eyes, steel grey and unreadable, held hers like a secret. "You," she whispered. "You were in the car." His mouth tilted slightly. "You were in the reflection." Her cheeks flamed. "I didn't mean to, it's not like I usually—" She gave up. "You followed me?" He took the napkins from her, dabbing casually at his soaked shirt. "Technically my driver did, but yes." "Why?" she asked, defensive. "Because you like watching women adjust their bras in public?" He didn't laugh, but something flickered in his gaze. "No, because I couldn't stop thinking about you." That made her blink. "Excuse me?" "I wanted to know who you were," he said simply. "You're kidding." He shook his head. Harper's guard went up. "Are you some kind of executive with a god complex, or is this just your version of fun?" "I'm Grayson Wolfe." The name hit her like a punch. Even she, who barely followed the news, had heard of him. Reclusive billionaire, tech tycoon, rumored to own a private island and half of Wall Street. There were myths surrounding this man, and here he was, covered in her coffee. "I don't understand," she managed. "I don't either," he admitted. "But something about you, your presence, your confidence, your complete disregard for who might be watching, it intrigued me." She crossed her arms. "That's not exactly romantic." "No," he said, "but it's honest." Their eyes locked, the tension electric. Then Harper did what she always did when things got too intense. She deflected. "You smell like French roast and hubris," she said. He smirked. "Better than arrogance and desperation." She laughed against her will, and it broke the tension. He stepped back. "Let me buy you a coffee, to replace the one you didn't get to drink." She looked him up and down, hesitating. "Just coffee," he added. "Not an offer to own you." She rolled her eyes. "Fine, but I picked the table, and if you get weird, I'm throwing a scone." "Deal." The cafe was crowded, but at their corner table it felt like a bubble, two worlds colliding inside a glass of iced coffee and awkward tension. Harper stirred her drink, watching the ice clink against the sides. Grayson sat across from her, legs crossed, one arm resting on the back of the booth. Everything about him screamed control. His posture, his expression, even the way he held his cup with precise fingers, measured, careful, deliberate. She, on the other hand, was fidgeting. Hair twirling, straw tapping, knee bouncing. She wasn't used to this, being watched like she was some kind of enigma, not by a man like him. "So," she said finally, "what do you actually do, besides follow strangers who grope their own boobs on parked cars?" His lips twitched, amused. "I build systems, infrastructure, the invisible things that make visible things possible." She raised an eyebrow. "That's vague and suspicious. Are you a billionaire arms dealer or Batman?" "I write code and manage algorithms. Less glamorous." "More terrifying," she replied. "Algorithms control the world." "I know." Their eyes met. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was charged. Like both of them knew this conversation was unlike anything they usually had. No pretending, no masks. "Why me?" she asked. "Seriously." Grayson didn't flinch. "Because you look like you didn't need anyone's permission to exist." That shut her up for a second. "I've seen a lot of people bend," he continued, voice low, almost distant. "For status, money, influence. You didn't flinch. You adjusted your bra and owned the moment." She snorted. "I wasn't exactly trying to make a feminist statement. I just couldn't get the strap to sit right." "That's the point. You didn't care if anyone saw." "Well," she said, sipping, "I do now." "You shouldn't." Harper narrowed her eyes. "You're weirdly intense for someone who has probably never had to check if his debit card would be declined." "I haven't used a debit card since I was 20. "Of course not." A beat passed, then another. "You don't like me," he said softly, but it wasn't a question. "I don't know you," she replied. "Fair." She hesitated. "I don't dislike you. I just don't know what you want." "I don't know yet either." That honest answer disarmed her more than anything else he'd said. The waitress dropped off their second round of drinks, eyeing Grayson with the kind of half-shy, half-starstruck stare Harper had seen a million times. It didn't matter how good-looking a man was, power changed everything. But Grayson didn't even notice the waitress. His gaze never left Harper. And that somehow made her nervous. "So what's the catch?" she asked. "You're a billionaire. You could have anyone." "I don't want anyone," he said. "I want someone real." She leaned back. "You don't even know me." "I want to." Harper bit her lip, fighting a smile. It wasn't that she didn't find him attractive, he was gorgeous. But that wasn't the point. The point was, this felt like something big, and big things scared her. They broke you when they fell apart. Still, when he stood and held out his hand, she took it. "Come on," he said. "Where?" "Anywhere. I've had enough boardrooms and silence for one lifetime." She laughed, following him to the door. Maybe it was insane. Maybe she was just another name he'd forget. Or maybe, just maybe, this was the first step towards something neither of them saw coming. The sun was beginning to set when Grayson's world finally cracked. They walked through Central Park, side by side, saying everything and nothing. Harper told him about her childhood in upstate New York, her mum's obsession with 90s rom-coms, her first job scooping ice cream at a gas station that doubled as a mini-mart. He listened, actually listened with the kind of intensity that made her forget how ridiculous this all was. "I know I talk a lot," she said, cheeks flushed. "You probably think I'm noise." "I think you're the first sound I've wanted to hear in years," he replied. That silenced her more effectively than any insult ever could. He paused near the edge of a small lake, staring at the reflections in the water. "I used to come here as a kid," he said, "before everything changed." Harper tilted her head. "What changed?" He hesitated. For the first time, the invincible billionaire looked uncertain. "My parents died when I was 17. Car crash. I inherited everything overnight." Her breath caught. "They wanted me to sell the company," he continued. "Said I was too young, but I kept it, grew it, multiplied it." "And built walls around yourself in the process," she said gently. He looked at her, almost surprised. "Yeah." "Grayson," she began, but his phone buzzed loud and sharp in the quiet. He pulled it out, his jaw tightening. "Excuse me." He stepped a few feet away, speaking in a low, clipped voice she couldn't fully hear, but the tone was unmistakable. Pressure, urgency, crisis. Harper watched him transform in real time, from vulnerable man in the park to commanding CEO making decisions that could shift markets. It was like watching a door slam shut in slow motion. He returned a minute later, visibly colder. "I have to go," he said. "Something urgent." Her heart sank, though she masked it with a shrug. "Of course, you're important." "That's not what I meant." "But it's true," she replied, trying to smile. "This, whatever this is, it doesn't really fit into your world, does it?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. Then, without thinking, he leaned down and kissed her. Not rushed, not aggressive, just real. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. "I haven't felt anything in years," he whispered, "and I don't want to screw this up." "Then don't," she said softly. He stepped back reluctantly, his voice low. "I'll call you tonight." "Sure." She watched him walk away, that polished silhouette vanishing into the noise of the city, and for the first time all day, Harper didn't feel bold or playful or charming. She just felt exposed. 3 days passed. No calls, no texts, nothing. Harper told herself she didn't care, that billionaires had empires to run and women like her were just pauses, background noise between meetings, a curiosity quickly forgotten. But every time her phone buzzed, her heart betrayed her. Hope, irritating, persistent hope, lingered. By the 4th day, she was done hoping. She stormed into the flower shop early, threw on her apron, and tried to disappear into petals and thorns. Love stories, she reminded herself, were for people who lived on movie screens and private jets, not women with rent due on the 15th and a landlord named Chuck who still used paper checks. At lunch, She left the shop for air and wandered 2 blocks without thinking. Her feet, traitors to her brain, led her toward the park, toward that lake. She sat on the same bench they'd shared, watching sunlight flicker on the water like tiny sparks of a promise never kept. Still using public benches? She turned. Grayson stood a few feet away, hands in his coat pockets, hair windswept and eyes unreadable. Her chest tightened. You didn't call. I couldn't. That's original. I didn't want to lie. She stood, arms crossed. Lie about what? He stepped closer. About the fact that I was terrified. Of me? No. Of what I felt with you. I didn't plan on anything. And then suddenly I couldn't stop thinking about a woman who adjusted her bra in my reflection and then made me laugh harder than I've laughed in a decade. Her throat tightened. You disappeared. I tried to protect it, he said quietly. Like I do with everything else in my life. Hide it, control it, lock it down. But that's not what this is. That's not who you are. She searched his face. So what now? You come here, say something poetic, and then vanish again. No. He took her hand. Warm, solid, sincere. I came to ask if you'd like to be seen again, not through a window, not as a reflection, but as you. Here, with me. Messy, complicated, real. Harper blinked, trying to hold back tears. I don't come with a filter, she said. Good. I've lived in silence for too long. I need something loud, something alive. She looked at him for a long moment, her heart pounding. And then she smiled, slow, honest, and full of mischief. Only if I get to pick the coffee next time. Deal. They kissed again. Not like the first time. This time was grounded, certain, deliberate. And as the city moved around them, as strangers passed and wind tugged at Harper's hair, neither of them noticed. Because when love starts in a reflection, it only becomes real when you choose to see it. Together. Default text.